Another announcement from CDPR. I'm sure this announcement is gonna be as useless as the last one. I am so tired of CDPR just doing this constantly. Guys, we're gonna have an announcement. Did you see the mystery tweet of a year ago? Well, here's the follow-up. No new information, just a vapid attempt at creating hype. I am so tired. How about some real gameplay? How about we actually get a Witcher 4 demo, not a lie that's a Witcher 4 demo? How about a lot of things? How about you actually explain your shitty decision making with everything that you have done? I do not trust CDPR. I think they are a failing company. I think they have lost all their talent. Their CEO literally is on camera lying to people saying, oh no, all the people who made all your favorite things, they're still here. Now, why you can't find them in the list of our employees, but you can find them in the list of the company they just literally made and announced? Don't worry about it. That's just small things. Don't worry about it. It's gonna sort itself. Boys, the doom of CDPR, I think it's coming. I think it's coming. They literally won a Volk Award, I mean. I don't know, maybe they won a Volk Award again this year, but it's bad. The situation of CDPR is bad. Volk, lying, making games look slop. I mean, again, the Witcher 4 just looks ass. And now, for how long? A year and a half we have been in this constant loop of, oh my god, look at this, an announcement. What did we announce? Nothing. Be excited. Don't ask questions, consume product, and then get excited for new product. That's what's going on. This pisses me off. I did not have a good opinion of CDPR Red. Pretty much with everything that happened after. Well, the Cyberpunk expansion, honestly. After that, everything kind of has went extremely downhill, in my opinion. Everything has gotten visibly worse.
Earlier today, CDPR announced they're doing another REDstream. These are those streams where, as of late, we've been getting a preview of new updates for the game, sometimes even getting hints or a tease at even further down the road stuff, but of course, also interviews. And this is a big one, as Mike Pondsmith, the creator of Cyberpunk himself, will be a guest this time around. CDPR did immediately make it clear that this will just be an interview and won't feature any major reveals, but it will be live, so there still is a chance our questions on some of this can be answered. But I still think there could be something. Mike Pondsmith has talked about working on something interesting as of late, and
Mike Pondsmith has also said that CDPR is kinda ignoring his ideas about how cyberpunk should actually function. He has also said pretty much that. So, yeah, Mike Pondsmith does seem like a good guy. He does seem like he cares a lot about the integrity of his thing, but it seems like CDPR does not care that much about this. Shocking, surprising, who would have expected, I know.
CDPR might have just started teasing the same thing in-game. And if nothing else, we have finally started to get answers around at least some of the Cyberpunk 2077 mysteries, and more will come as this 5-year anniversary does approach. And more answers could even come this week, as on Thursday, October 30th at 5 p.m. CET, CDPR will go live with another episode of REDstreams. Featuring Mike Pondsmith, they promise to talk about creating Cyberpunk 2013 and 2020, but also his reaction to Keanu's casting and more. I think this stream will just be really interesting for any Cyberpunk fans out there, but what's got me particularly curious is what Mike Pondsmith's been working on as of late.
Now, granted, this will be interesting because this guy, he does tend to speak on what he wants to speak, so this being live actually does give a chance that he's gonna leak some stuff that CDPR would not exactly be thrilled about. There is a chance, because when he says something, he doesn't really care if he wants to say it in a lot of cases.
Morgan Blackhand is probably the best known Cyberpunk character to not get featured in Cyberpunk 2077 or the anime, at least so far. Described as looking like George Clooney, but of course with a black hand, Morgan Blackhand is well known for a good reason. Described as the solo, Blackhand is functionally a one-man army and one of the most famous mercs for hire in and around Night City. He was even at the assault on Arasaka Tower. He led one of the other strike teams right alongside Johnny Silverhand. Unfortunately though, that's where it all goes cold for Morgan Blackhand. He has a very in-depth story in the lore right up until this specific assault, as from this night onwards, Morgan Blackhand went missing. It was actually a major point of speculation with both Cyberpunk 2077 and even Phantom Liberty that this guy would pop up as a major character. There's some mentions here or there, potentially even in Japantown around the time of 2077, but the story of Cyberpunk's most famous solo is unfinished, and that might be changing soon, because I have a suspicion that Morgan Blackhand was going to pop up in the original expansion 2 for Cyberpunk 2077. That of course ended up getting cancelled with the launch disaster and all of the ensuing updates, but it does become interesting again as we just got word that more work on Morgan Blackhand is occurring. This character is extra special as it's the personal character of Mike Pondsmith, the creator of all of this. With Blackhand's absence from Cyberpunk 2077, fans were concerned about a potential retcon on his role, but all the way back in April of 2022, this was debunked.
This actually is a great point. I do think CDPR have, at least, previously at least, they did have a noticeable talent when it actually came to having a good source material and then turning it into a game. Because if you know, if you have watched this channel, you probably know my opinion on this. I do not think you can actually take a book and make it one-to-one into a game or movie, or take a movie and make it into one-to-one into a game or book. It does not work like this. You need to take a lot of creative liberties to make stuff good for the medium of your choosing. And I think at least old CDPR was really good at it. I think CDR was really good at looking at, oh, this is the stuff that's happening, and we can do this, and you know, they were good at adapting things, already existing stories, and you know, doing a good job at it. But now, well, now CDPR is not really adapting shit. They are ignoring, they are ignoring the creator of The Witcher. What was his name? He is getting shafted on the ideas of The Witcher 4. They're not listening to him. And they're not really listening to Mike Pondsmith also, as far as I can tell. Granted, he still has a lot of control, because as far as I can tell, the deal that he signed with CDPR does give him way more creative control than the Witcher series. Like, the guy who made The Witcher literally is not allowed to actually even intervene with their creative processes. If they want to do it, he can kind of only just, well, maybe sue them, I don't know. But in this case, he does have a say what happens to the Cyberpunk franchise, which is a big deal. Because I do not trust CDPR Red to actually make decisions for themselves at this point. I still kind of technically trust them to, you know, take some kind of story and turn it into a game medium. But even then, again, the risk of wokeness is just far too big with CDPR. Even that, I don't fully trust them. I think maybe they can still do it, but definitely not pre-ordering anything, boys.
By Pondsmith himself. Morgan hasn't been retconned out of 2077, far from it. But the deal is that I have a few things I need to do with him in the timeline before CD gets to play with him. Stay tuned and make sure to check out Cyberpunk Red as well as any upcoming 2077 DLC. He follows this up a few months later in October of 2022 to say, me and my opposite number at CDPR, Patrick, are planning a whole crazy backstory about what Morgan has been doing since the nuke. And if you're excited about Morgan Blackhand or the future of Cyberpunk, both of those posts feel pretty important to me. The quote that CD gets to play with Morgan does seem to be confirmation that Morgan Blackhand will pop up in one of the games at some point, or at least was planned to in the past. and they mentioned to look out for future DLCs, while also learning that Patrick, likely Patrick Mills, the cyberpunk lore master at CD Projekt Red, was working with Mike Pondsmith on this does feel like a pretty big clue of something. A CDPR employee was working on Morgan Blackhand lore and backstory in 2022. This was posted a full year before the release of Phantom Liberty, but obviously that didn't go anywhere. At least not in the 3 years since it was posted, as we still know next to nothing about Morgan Blackhand. But just recently, in December of 2024, Mike Pondsmith started talking about all of this again at PAX Unplugged.
I am working out a new, Morgan will serve.
We have known about this for a very long time. I literally remember this clip, Juicehead, okay? Stop with the fucking padding.
He is alive, but I have about 10
Also, this is not the original audio. This is like a modded version of it. What the hell?
years that Morgan's doing some fairly important stuff. And the best I can say is imagine if the Batman traveled a lot. You know, and he left Gotham City every so often to deal. And so right now what's going on is I am building backstory into Red of what Morgan did to get up to 77. And you're going to see him in a couple other places that aren't necessarily Night City, because we're talking about expanding the world a bit.
And that is an interesting reveal. It seems like not much progress was made. They're still working to fill in Morgan Blackhand's story up until 2077, but a couple of big choices were made. Morgan was in Night City. This is confirmed here by Mike Pondsmith, and he does continue on to say how we wouldn't notice him. He would be some accountant-looking guy in an elevator who drops his briefcase and then shoots us. And Morgan Blackhand is traveling with someone and doing something notable. Mike Pondsmith describes how he wants fans to have some kind of reaction when they find out what Morgan Blackhand's been up to, but of course the big part of that quote to stand out to me is going to new places.
The exciting part about this is kinda, well, Morgan Blackhand is literally his self-insert, so you know he's gonna do a good job making that character. You know he's gonna try pretty hard to not disappoint us because it's his own self-insert, so there we go. The funny fact is typically self-inserts are really bad. I mean, look at modern day woke media. Shit, those self-inserts just kill me inside. But this one works, okay?
Says Morgan Blackhand will seemingly pop up in some location other than Night City, and even further how they're focusing on the lore up until 2077. One of the other big reveals we got earlier this year from Mike Pondsmith was around Cyberpunk 2 at Digital Dragons.
I spent a lot of time talking to one of the environment guys, and he was explaining how the new place in Orion, because there's another city we visit. I'm not telling you any more than that, but there's another city we visit, and Night City's still there. But I remember looking at it and going, yeah, I understand the feel that you're going for this, and this really does work. And it doesn't feel like Blade Runner. It feels more like Chicago gone wrong.
So in late 2024, he's working on Morgan Blackhand lore, where he goes to new places. In May 2025, he's talking about a second city being present in the Cyberpunk sequel, and I think that second city might be the Plex. This being a giant interconnected metroplex of several cities on the East Coast. Pretty much all of the good cities in the US in one. And if this is the first time you're learning about the Plex, remember it, because you're going to be hearing more about it in the future, almost certainly. CDPR is clearly teasing something here. The Plex was only first mentioned in a shard in Phantom Liberty. Just this one shard that was added with that expansion, but then all of a sudden, with patch 2.3, all 3 of the new vehicle quests have some mention of this location. The most notable being around the new Caliburn Rayfield.
Now, granted, that's good. That's how you want to introduce these locations. You don't want to... Nice clipping. You don't want to make them feel like, you know, they're just pulled out of nowhere. You want to drop hints. You want people to be accustomed to the idea of this place existing and being a place that matters, okay? That's how you do it properly, though.
Mordred. On one of the Rayfield executive's laptops, you can find an entry about the Mordred. It describes how it was designed for a discreet business trip to the Plex in 2075 by Yorinobu Arasaka, and how it must use the latest weapon and armor systems to withstand all possible threats, both street level and corporate, needing a highly armored and specially weaponized vehicle to not only defend from corpos, but also some of the street level threats. Does sound a lot like a Chicago gone wrong. I think Mike Pondsmith is talking about
Now, granted, most of us are currently thinking, what the hell is a Chicago gone right? But sure.
the Plex here. And in turn, I think Morgan Blackhand went to the Plex, or will potentially even pop up there in a more major way at some point in the future. Some kind of Chicago gone wrong, or crazy city where you need a armored and weaponized car does sound like a perfect setup for this one-man army to do some really crazy stuff that definitely shocks the audience, just like what Mike Pondsmith wanted. So taking that all together, I think it's pretty clear that CDPR and Mike Pondsmith are collaborating on some kind of new Morgan Blackhand storyline that may take us to the Plex, and that's why we're seeing teases around it. But what actually will this be? Are we talking about a new cyberpunk lore book, one for 2045 or 2077, as they do have planned right now? There's of course also Cyberpunk 2, that's the most obvious way I could see this all coming into play as far as a video game does go. Cyberpunk 2 just went into pre-production, so the timing here could make a lot of sense, but there's also a ton of hope from fans for a new Cyberpunk 2077 DLC. Could that fit in? That's definitely one of the more hopeful and kind of crazy answers, but at the same time, right now there's a rumor that The Witcher 3, a 10-plus-year-old game, is getting a new DLC.
Oh yeah, whatever happened to that? Well, it's supposed to be a DLC that explains to us why Ciri, being literally already the strongest character in the fucking lore pretty much, needed to lose the ability to, at the bare minimum, just teleport, because, I mean, teleportation is such a weak ability, you know? Obviously, the weakest of them all. And, you know, swap that out for the ability to drink a potion that maybe, like, damages a creature but it almost kills you. Yeah, that's the good shit, okay? That's 100% worth, boys. Yeah. Maybe CDPR understands how fucking futile it actually is to release an expansion for The Witcher 3 that explains to us why Ciri getting destroyed and ruined, in not the fun ways, may I mind, is actually somehow a good thing. In any case, that was Juicehead 10 out of 10. Bye!